having some of these super pretzel sticks. They're really super good. And most people don't know, but unless they listened or checked out my other videos, I don't eat meat, I don't drink milk. But Philadelphia took care of me here. This is Philadelphia plant-based with none of this stuff in it. And this is the best cream cheese I've ever had in my life. It tastes better than their normal cream cheese. And it doesn't have any allergy-inducing dairy that causes obesity and diabetes and breast cancer and prostate cancer and allergies and asthma and all of those other terrible things, animal torture and cheese addiction, all that stuff that comes with it. This tastes exactly like cream cheese, or better, and it doesn't have any of that bad stuff with it. And so, and that's on that note, and this is a completely unrelated to guitar topic. A common response to, I tried this vegan cheese, it's really delicious, is, and this is the usual response is, oh, ew, vegan cheese, disgusting. Well, I can promise you that the process by which cheese is created and the after effects of cheese consumption are considerably more disgusting than any vegan cheese. Okay, like people getting their hearts transplanted, asthma, getting breast cancer taken care of and their breasts cut out, and prostate cancer that kills, you know, endless people, all the allergy problems, the lactose intolerance that plagues roughly 75% of the whole population, the animal torture, the congealing and controlling of mold culture to even make cheese. All of that is abhorrently disgusting. It actually is truly revolting in its nature. So when someone says, oh, vegan food, that's disgusting, I promise you, the level of feces and parasites that is in the meat you're eating is considerably more disgusting than any plant-based meat alternative that you might eat. People say, oh, but there are chemicals in them vegan meats. You can't eat no chemicals. It'll hurt you if you can. Well, there is a lot more growth hormone chemicals, actual real harmful chemicals in the meat that you're eating. I promise you. So this isn't an activism video, but, you know, just to vent a tiny bit on the subject. Stop calling vegan food disgusting, because I promise what you're eating actually truly is disgusting. How it was made is disgusting. What it's doing to you and what it's going to do to you is disgusting. It is actually disgusting. It disgusts me. The pollution, the animal torture, and all the diseases and things, and all of the medical conditions that come along with it are literally disgusting. And those people that say that, they say, oh, vegan cheese, that's disgusting. Oh, those vegan meat substitutes are disgusting. You have either tasted it one time, okay, or you have never tasted it. And you're just saying something. You're just spewing that stuff. So yeah, it's actually really annoying, you know. It's very annoying. So yeah, this one's already been used a little bit. But what I like to do, and I mean, I'm not really so much a health food vegan. I'm overweight now, slightly anyway, and I don't care. So, oops. I'm going to put my cream cheese on my vegan pretzel here. Whoa, it's hot. Right out of the oven. And you know, that was the one thing I missed when I went vegan, was cheese. It's about almost 10 years ago now that I went vegan. Before that I was vegetarian and was eating, like, my typical Little Caesars pizza order would be 2 pretzel crust stuffed crust with cheese sauce instead of pizza sauce and extra vegetables, which would be like mushrooms, peppers, olives, and stuff, because it was a vegetarian pizza. And I was over 260 pounds. And when I first went vegan, there were almost no cheese substitutes or very few, if any, meat substitutes that were available. So I was eating quinoa and rice and stuff all the time, and I lost weight rapidly and was healthier than I've been in years and years. They first started coming out with vegan cheese substitutes, and they were hit or miss. Some were good, some really weren't that good. Well, in the past 10 years, they've come up with vegan cheese that tastes exactly like cheese, melts almost exactly or exactly like cheese, is nearly the same price or less expensive than a lot of the cheese you buy. And I use it for pizza, burritos, and everything. We eat a totally Western diet that's all vegan now. We eat cheeseburgers, chick patty sandwiches, corn dogs, pasta with vegan meatballs, pretzels, sub sandwiches, everything. There is no area. One thing I don't eat is bloody raw steak. But you know, they even make vegan steaks that look and taste nearly the same. And you know, when I was a kid, I guess I was a smart kid, because when I ate a chicken leg, I saw tendons and blood veins and black nasty stuff and hard stuff, and it was greasy and disgusting to me. And like a lot of little kids, I got forced to eat, either being beaten or sitting at a table till 11 p.m. with cold food in front of me, grounded, whipped, whatever you can come up with. Literally forced to eat meat. I hated the taste of milk, I hated the taste of cheese, and I did not like meat in the slightest bit. And for people that say, why do vegans want to make something that tastes like meat? Well, the answer to that is, why do meat eaters have to turn their meat into something that doesn't taste like meat? Because what you're eating doesn't taste like meat. No one takes meat and just eats it the way that it is. They always put a ton of salt and spices and batter dipped and all kinds of vegetable and fruit sauces that they come up with, ketchup and all kinds of things. You're never going to eat it raw, I guarantee you that. You know? And so, hate me if you want, throw a big fit if you want to, that's fine, but I promise you, meat eating and dairy and cheese eating is astronomically more disgusting than anything vegan that you could eat. And I can already hear everybody. I could never go vegan, no matter what you say, no matter what you do. Yeah. Over 100 years ago, do you actually believe people ate the way that they do today? Okay, the way normal people, for the majority of the human existence, other than isolated tribes that were forced to eat seal meat and stuff all the time, or ice fishing, they gathered, they ate herbs, they ate nuts, seeds, berries, and a lot of tuber kind of potato rooted vegetables. Meat was something reserved and was often a rich, out of reach kind of delicacy. Like you might eat potato soup and bread and some basement beer or something that was regional the majority of your year. And then when Christmas comes along, you have a fat animal somewhere and you kill it and eat it for Christmas or for Thanksgiving or something. And that was the extent of the meat consumption that people actually endured. Today, people are hypnotized to eat meat 3 times a freaking day. And it's loaded with feces and parasites and growth hormones and all kinds of terrible things. And most of the grain grown in the world is fed to the bulls that are killed and harvested. It's the biggest polluter in the entire world by a great factor. We could stop air conditioners, cars, fossil fuels and stuff. It doesn't even come anywhere near the impact of animal agriculture. Of course, I believe scientists. I don't believe a redneck with his finger to the wind over, video evidence of islands of garbage and toxic after effects of industry. Visible toxic after effects. So, yeah. Healthy. Vegans are always healthier unless they're starving themselves. And starving yourself is a totally different thing than veganism. So, anyway, that's me. And you should be that way. I'll just tell you straight up. Don't eat that garbage. Don't eat dairy. Don't drink milk. Humans are not meant to drink that stuff. Dr. Greger did a huge presentation on this, and it became prophetic because it was from 2013, and it detailed the origins of our infectious diseases that become widespread and can become pandemics like coronaviruses, and found that they were all tied to our misuse of animals. Whenever we gathered together a large amount of animals in one place, the diseases that were normally in the animals, seemingly dormant because they had these viruses that didn't affect them, would then transfer to other animals or then transfer to humans. They have a mutation survival pattern where the cold came from horses and the flu came from ducks. So ducks were in the water. We started growing and using chickens. The chickens started being around the ducks, and so the virus normally dormant within ducks that's waterborne moved to the chickens, and when they moved to the chickens, they got close enough to humans to become airborne. And that is the origin of influenza. So animal agriculture is creating the pandemics. It's what will create pandemics. This is science. This is not some political activist finger to the wind assuming things. This is people who actually know where the origin of our infectious diseases are from. Dr. Michael Greger did a presentation in 2013, and they were talking in it about, because of our complete disregard for the dangers of factory farming, a possible widespread worldwide flu virus. And then, of course, in 2019, that happened. And, with all of this is education. Something I said to somebody the other day that was hurt. People were attacking this girl in a chat room. Apparently she'd made some mistake and said some bad things in a chat 10 years ago, for real, like a decade ago. And people were still attacking this girl all the time over it. And I told her in a private chat window, I said, true strength is the ability to change. And true forgiveness is the ability to accept that others can change. So when you tell me, and it's always the answer, I could never be a vegan. I could never do that no matter what. No, you're too weak. You're too weak to change. And on that note, you're also too weak to grow a bull and then kill it and murder the animal and then chop it up and strip off all of its muscles and stuff. And yeah, that's why we have, multi-billion-dollar industries burn down Brazil to do that. for you. You know, you're so disconnected from it. Someone did a little test just to prove that grand disconnect from the world to your mouth. He had a sausage stand in a store. Freshest sausage. He had a vegan sausage, which they're the best ever. They're a Guardian and Impossible sausage bratwurst that are the best bratwurst I've ever had in my life. And I used to eat bratwurst and brats and stuff and sausages all the time. And those are lined with stomach lining and full of like souse and chunks of crap you should never eat, parasites and feces and everything bad in them. And they've taken the flavorings and made a plant-based one that doesn't clog your arteries or give you too much saturated fat or all the growth hormones and diseases and parasites and stuff. It's a heart disease and things like that. And they taste wonderful. Anyway, this guy had a sausage stand and was giving out free samples. And what he was giving out was a vegan sausage with little toothpicks. And it said freshest sausage. And people would come up and take some of the free sample and they'd eat it. And of course, whoa, that's the best sausage I've ever had in my life. Everyone said that. Everyone that tasted it was like, oh, that is the best sausage. And this was vegan sausage he was giving them, right? And then he would say, do you want to order some right now? And like, oh yeah, actually I'd like to buy some. The majority of the people said, yes, I'd like to buy some of that right now. So he'd reach under this table, and then you realize that he actually has like a metal grinding box on top of the table, right? And he pulls out a piglet from under the table, and he puts it in the grinding box and then starts to turn the handle. And they're all, no, don't do that, don't, stop, oh my God, stop that, don't do that. Every one of them either jumped in the way, grabbed his hand, begged him, consoled, anything to stop him from grinding up that animal to turn it into sand. It wasn't a grinding machine, it was fake. And he was proving that point over and over and over and over again. If you had a chicken and you got to know it, and it was your friend, you would not be murdering it one time to eat one meal. So then people say classic, what if you're all alone on an island and all you had was a pig? There's a pig there. You'd eat it, wouldn't you? You'd have to eat it. Ha ha, the vegan would eat a pig. Okay, well, let's use some logic for that deduction. I'm on an island suddenly. How'd I get there? Who knows? But I'm on this island. I'm going to starve to death. And then, oh look, there's a pig. How'd that pig get here? Well, what do pigs eat? Lots of stuff. They'll eat almost anything. Primarily herbivorous, but probably known to eat some bugs and little bits and stuff here and there. They'll root and eat in feces. But they'll also eat slop, herbs, anything basically they can get a hold of. So what do? Do you kill the pig so you can survive for a couple of days off pig meat and then start to dehydrate and starve and die on that island? Well, what you really should do is follow the pig's tracks. It came out and it's there and you're on this island. Follow it to where its food sources are. It's not eating other pigs. It's not a carnivore. When you find its food sources that a pig could actually thrive off of, you will have found a massive food source that you can eat from. So no, not even if I was stranded on an island and there was a pig there, would I make the terrible mistake of killing that animal and eating it when I could follow it to its primary food source and eat that and probably live for a very long time. Yeah, so I just saw a story about cartels that were murdering each other and stuff. Like a guy, I guess it was in 2015 or something, was cut out of the family's drug business and then killed a whole bunch of cartel members, and he's being convicted, all this. And it makes me think of a nun who went to Brazil to point out what was happening there. They used slash and burn, and they kill endless species that will never be known. I know you don't care at all, and the majority of people could absolutely care less about some tree frog or a particular type of centipede or an animal, bird or something, or primates, any animals at all. You don't care at all. You claim you love animals, but the only animal you really love is your dog. And it makes me think that people need to wear a t-shirt that says, vegans should wear a t-shirt that says, I love animals, and it has a picture of some, trophy dog with a sweater on and a ornate collar with a diamond on it, and a hairstyle and stuff. But I treat animals with respect. I talk to cats and dogs and birds and bugs and everything. I treat everything with that level of respect. It's alive. It was a baby. It was born into this world and is having its own experience here. And so this nun goes to Brazil. She is protesting what they're doing to the land there and what they're doing to people, because a lot of people are involved in this too, as much as that might also leave a bad taste in your mouth. Well, they filmed her as they came up upon her and murdered her, and then sent pictures of this act out to the media, showing you that if you try to say anything about what they're doing, the big beef industry that's slash and burning the rainforest and the Brazilian countrysides for grazing land, they'll murder you, even if you're a nun in the service of God. They'll just murder you, and that's a cartel. So you're being hypnotized to eat meat by incessant, constant suggestion from commercials and advertisements, people pressuring you, and you can see this effect. You can see it if you want to see the kind of sophomoric, juvenile, subdued, hypnotized nature of people. Just go into a chat room or mention around anybody. Just say it as quietly as you can. I'm a vegan. Just say it. And immediately get ready to hear, well, I'm about to eat 2 steaks here in a couple minutes. I can't wait to have steak tonight. I'm going to have chicken dinner tonight. Oh, I can't wait to eat. I'm going to eat 3 servings of chicken instead of 1 just because you said that. Oh, I love the taste of bloody meat. And I just love meat every single day. I could never do that. I could never do it. You're malnourished. There's something wrong with you. You will hear the landslide of literal and figurative bullshit come piling your way just for mentioning that one little thing. And they will judge you. They won't be your friend. Oh, no, you can never be a friend with you. And if you and then later on, suppose you go into the same chat room or go around the same people and then just say something that they don't like. Anything. Okay? They could say, I have a Rottweiler, and you could say, oh man, this guy beat a Rottweiler and let it loose on my family. That's kind of scary to me. That's what it reminds me of. You can say, and then the next thing they're saying, oh, well, I'm eating chicken tonight. Ha ha ha, everybody, la la la, everybody laugh, ha 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 ha. 20 people in a big row laughing and dancing and kicking like a chorus line. So from that point on, no matter what you say or do, you're getting attacked. No matter what. So that just shows how controlled people are and how absolutely disrespectful and immature the mind of the common populace is. They're like 4-year-olds that just heard somebody fart, and they're going to laugh for a solid 30 minutes and then say the word poopy and duty for another 2.5 hours. That's the level, that's the mind that you're dealing with in this world we're living in. People are retarded. Like, they are so stupid that there is no border level of respect to start with, and once you say anything at all, no matter what, they are the most juvenile, immature people that you could possibly even try. It's straight into ad hominem, any conversation in this world. It's really sad. Leonardo da Vinci said that my body will not be a tomb for living creatures, and that there will be a day when man treats the murder of these animals as the same as the murder of himself. And his sheer genius and inventiveness, we're living in a post-Da Vinci world. He changed the entire world, and he was that smart. But no, we can't listen to Da Vinci. Why listen to that guy? Yeah. So yeah. Make sure though, okay, if you like this video, or if you don't like it, if you learn anything from it, or if you think I messed up, or if you like what you saw, or any comments and stuff, that's fine. But also, because I mentioned my own personal beliefs and how it relates to my diet and my worldview, make sure to come in there and tell me too how many extra pounds of raw meat you're going to eat tonight for dinner, because I dared to suggest anything of the sort. And make sure to tell me how stupid I am, or malnourished, or weak I am because I'm a vegan. Even though I'm about 220 pounds and I'm extremely strong. And well, okay, I wake up at between like 4:45 and 5 a.m. in the morning, and about 1 hour after that, roughly around 6 a.m., I drink a cup of coffee, usually fresh ground. At 6:30 a.m., I make lunches for my kids who are about to go to school. At 7:15 a.m., I wake up my kids, and by 7:45, they're ready for school. They walk down the street to the bus stop where they get picked up at a nearby middle school that's right down the street, in view of the bay window of the home I live in. So at 5 a.m., you see, and it's about 10 a.m. now, so that's when I eat, is about 4.5 to 5 hours into the day, which is between 9:30 and 10 a.m. in the morning, where a lot of people aren't even up out of their bed yet doing anything at all. And I'll be going to bed somewhere between 11:30 and midnight tonight, and I get to do that over and over again through the entire week. On Saturday, I keep a Sabbath, and you guys do too. You can say, well, I'm not Jewish, or you aren't Jewish, or Christians don't do that, or people don't do that. Just plain and simple, okay? It's the weekend. If you have a weekend, you are keeping a Sabbath. That's why they call it the weekend. That's why the majority of people have Saturday or Sunday off, so that they don't have to work. And that's the true, pure essence of the Sabbath. We are not a worker-slave culture that has to go light all the torches in a big brick hallway for some Egyptian overlords or something. We are not, pottery crafters who are sit around speaking a native dialect and, caring for rich Egyptian children or something crazy like that. We are working in a high-tech culture, and so if you tell me, oh, well, I don't ever keep the Sabbath ever, well, you do know about the weekend, don't you? You know what the term weekend means? There's a week, then there's a weekend, and then during the weekend, what's the essence of the weekend? Oh, well, on the weekend, a lot of people go out and have fun, and they do things with their friends, and they party, and they don't work. Well, that's the Sabbath. That's what they're doing. They're keeping the Sabbath. If you are planning on doing something fun this weekend but not working, you're keeping the Sabbath. Yeah. So, I feel kind of bent today. I was on a chat room with friends and trying to make friends and talk to friends. And you know, it's just a sign. It's a sign of the times. What people do, they follow the same process everywhere you go. You meet them, people begin to talk. Some people like you, some people don't. You notice that if you're in a chat room about music, then only about 10% of the people are actually talking about music or care about music. And about 85, 90% of the people are on there hurting each other with words as much as they possibly can, like it's some kind of game. And I made friends on there, and then one of my friends started calling me horrible names and trying to make everybody rally against me. Then people stopped talking to me, people stopped looking at my profiles, people stopped hanging out or chatting with me. I had people that would say hi to me every time I came in a room. I had people that would do little heart emojis and stuff and ask me how I'm doing, comment and like my my posts in my profile, and no, that's all gone now. All because one person started wrongfully attacking me and accusing me of things that I didn't do and that don't apply to me. And it's just plain and simple. It's just plain and simple. That level of immaturity where you can't interact with people. And so that's kind of a microcosmic world view of what's actually going on everywhere. People have been, they're slush heads. They're just like, they're so stupid that you can't communicate with people. And if you say anything that they don't want to hear, they're going to, okay, if you say that you don't like somebody, now they're going to start calling you a murderer or something, right? If you say that you like to watch anime, they'll start calling you a pedo. If you say that you like to, in my case, I say I'm a vegan, and then people say, "Oh, I'm eating meat, and you're malnourished," and "Oh God, do you force your kids to do that? Oh, are you forcing your kids to do that?" Vegans, oh man, I feel so sorry for your kids. That's so terrible. Yeah. So you get the whole mess of immature, retarded assholes coming at you from all directions. And what do you try to do? Well, suppose you go into a room about sports and you're talking about baseball, and 10% of the people in the room are talking about baseball, and 85 to 90% of the people are hurting each other with words and attacking each other constantly, incessantly. And the exact same process happens all over again. And that's the world we live in. We live in a world where you might as well not even bother trying to ever make friends or communicate with anyone, because everybody knows, oh, they got this answer. They've decided what you are already, and they're going to start applying it and calling you that all the time, whatever they've chosen. They'll call you a murderer. They'll call you a crackhead. They'll call you a pedo. They'll call you a chomo. They'll call you whatever. I've heard it all now. I have been called nearly everything you can call someone, and absolutely none of it applies to me in any way. And you know how hurtful it really actually is. And it's also like, it's not just demeaning, but it's like it hurts, because you realize that's how people actually are. These people never had a platform until they had the internet. They were just mumbling this nonsense to themselves in their little rooms somewhere. And then they got a platform to spew it out. They are sheltered, closeted, closed-minded, sick people. And they're not there to make friends or talk about any subject in particular. They want to find one thing that they can attack you for, and then rally everyone together like a witch hunt and attack you. If you say you use tarot cards, then you're a demon worshiper. And then everyone who has any kind of religious inklings, they're going to attack you endlessly. And I could argue that the tarot card was rooted in the zodiac, which is rooted in the signs of the heavens, which you've been instructed to pay attention to, directly from God, directly from the Bible. And also, I could also say that, that if you play with playing cards, you are doing very much a similar act to a tarot card reader. You're given random cards from a deck. The cards represent the exact same factioning that is presented in a tarot card. The playing card deck used in gambling is exactly the same thing as a tarot card deck. You go to a person who presents random cards to you. That's how tarot cards work. The tarot cards have face cards, or they have lesser arcana cards, which are number cards. And then based on those cards, you either win or you lose. Even in old tarot, if you had 3 or 4 of the major arcana, that was a powerful reading and the message was meaningful and all that. And if you go to a casino and you get 3 or 4 face cards that are all in the same house, then you won a fortune, didn't you? So in the past they told you your fortune, and today you use those same cards to gain a literal fortune. So the level of understanding that people has is so suspect and so wavy and watery and pliable and malleable, you can't communicate with people. If I go in there and tell them that I like Transformers toys, then I'm a juvenile man-child, when I'm not. I use them for stop motion animation and I'm an artist. If you go in there and tell them that you that you went to the Citizens Police Academy and got to fire the guns and learn about how things work in your community, well, then now you're a wannabe cop, and that you can't wait to kill somebody, and you're a pig, you're a fascist and stuff. So you can't be anybody. And if you say anything at all, they grab it, warp it, twist it, make it the worst possible thing they can come up with, and then they brand you with that. And then you can't escape. So just try to make friends and be a vegan in this world. Just try to be a vegan and go somewhere and do something. I have been bashed and browbeaten and just demoralized and ruinated by every cosmically, abhorrently retarded dumb fuck that you could possibly try to communicate with in this world. And I can promise you this, the majority of you, I am drastically more intelligent than you. I have like an IQ of over 130, and all of my children I taught to read and do basic math and thinking, and they have all been in high ability, high creativity, special schools set apart for extremely intelligent children. And my 2 youngest children have never eaten meat in their entire lives. Okay, I do stop motion animation, I paint statues and figures, I paint toys, I make customizations for toys, I program video games, I build computers and technology, I play drums, keyboards, bass guitars, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, I write music, I've created many songs, I write poetry where every line of poetry has 2 or 3 meanings in the lines of poetry. I have deciphered ancient secrets and things. I've read Philo and Josephus and Strong's Bible definitions and the Bible many, many times over. We are not the same. Okay, I play chess with a 9-year-old boy for fun. What do? You go online, yeah, and then you attack people from the safety of your keyboard until everybody rallies around them like a witch hunt, and they're all slinging mud and rocks at somebody that they don't know at all, and they can't even communicate with at an intelligent level. And so that's my rant for you. Please, by all means, try to browbeat me in the comments with your retardation. That's just so much fun. Yes, it's what I look forward to it. Yeah. One thing I'm giving up on, though, is even trying to make any friends in this world. Seriously.
Sama L. All right. And if you look at S-A-M-A, that's right there on page 60. Just
okay.
The first
I have some background stuff I'm listening to. I don't think it'll get me a strike or anything. It's just a guy I love to listen to. Very creative man. Named Bill Donahue, not Phil Donahue, who was the talk show host guy, Bill Donahue.
That flows through the brain and opens up passages, okay?
He does a show called Hidden
I
Meanings.
showed you last week this ancient wheel with Samael, and Samael. Now listen very carefully what I'm telling you.
Really fun.
Samael.
Okay, I like to take the strings off if I'm not taking the neck off, and I'll just kind of move them over and then set something on them for weight. Just to hold the strings down. kind of out of the way. All
We
right.
oppose it, all right?
So.
Now, let's think for a minute about the devil or Satan, okay?
So I'm
The
using
devil or
this,
Satan in the context of reality cannot exist until something happens.
and I'm loosening up the strings.
If I decide I'm going to think about robbing a bank, and I think about robbing the bank, and I drive down and I look at the bank, there's no evil has occurred at all. No money has gone out of the bank, nobody's robbed the bank, I just thought about it. If I rob the bank, the devil has occurred. Now if I thought about robbing the bank, if I rob the bank, the devil has occurred. Everybody has had thoughts. Each one of you, if you were to tell the person sitting next to you what thoughts you've had this week, everybody else would get up and run out of this room. Because that's the way it is. That's the normal way things are. And yet all of us smile. We have Bibles under our arms. We walk into church. How do you do? Praise the Lord. All that stuff. And yet during the week we've been in this bizarre escapade within our ears and in our heads. All of these wild things.
Nice and
Well,
loose.
that's the way it is. Because as long as you live with other people, your mind is going to be susceptible to all of the thoughts and all of the things that go on around you. So that's perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, well, I'm looking into the things, but I mean, I don't have to get into the things because you know yourself what goes on inside of your head. It's pretty wild. And don't tell me, but unless you'd like, no, just in other words, think, if we had this projector and I could put on and project your thoughts, you know, some of your real good ones you've had this week, and put it up on the wall. You know, would you hang around? You're absolutely not. I'm out of here, you know. Gee. Okay. So thoughts then in and of themselves. Now that's the reason, while in the Adam and Eve story, you know, the two nudists who were talking to the snake actually is a symbol of the spine. Eve is the mind, and Adam represents the physical part. And so what happens? When Eve eats the fruit, there's no problem, is there? No problem. Nothing wrong. Because it's just a thought. There's no devil. But when Adam eats it, all hell breaks loose. Right? Because now the deed has been acted out. What I'm trying to show you is that in essence what you have is a neutral energy inside of you called current.
Okay.
Current.
All the strings are now off.
Current. And the current feeds the resistor.
I'm using this just as a counterweight,
which is the brain.
just to keep my strings out of the
The
way.
problem with it is you've never been instructed to the fact that the circuits of your brain must have resistance.
This fretboard really drank up that oil. It's
And so the current is
very, very
flowing
nice
unchecked into your brain without resistance. And if you do that to any kind of the appliances in your house, they blow up and they explode and they burn out, and that's the end of them. And many of that happens to us too. People blow up, they explode, they burn out. Many times you're on overload, overheated, fired up. All of these things occur because you don't understand that your brain cannot operate with resistance. So it's not the current, Samael, that's the devil. It's what happens when the current is fed into the circuits of the brain unchecked. And what is resistance?
I'm preparing this for the fret file to move along this and not hit or damage parts of the guitar. I'm going to take kind of the path of one of my favorite guitar tech people, Tanya Sopcich, and I'm going to kind of be quiet. I'll let Bill do the talking.
And we have continued to brutalize the world. We've continued to drop bombs on people. We've continued to hurt people.
She's amazing too, by the way. She's beautiful and she's really, really good. She's 10 times better than I'll ever be at working on guitars.
We had to get to understand ourselves and to understand how we operate.
Such a wonderful
person. So this
person.
Samael then blocks your path. And 4555, as I told you, that galaxy, which it says in the Bible, the Lord shall give you a sign, a virgin shall conceive.
I probably didn't say her name right either.
Right.
Sorry.
Now,
I think she's Russian or something like that.
Here we are.
Excellent guitar tech.
We've reached this separation.
So I'm taping this so that
let me show you
dust
why.
from the
You can sit here and
steel wool doesn't get into the magnets.
And people will say, "Oh, that's strange."
And to protect the surface.
And they hear these sounds that come through the speakers, and they have meditation. And what's the sense of that? What's the purpose of that? You know, that sounds like a cult to me. Well, let me show you where our documentation. If you have one of these things, if you'll open it up to page 46, let me show you why we do this and why it's necessary to do this. Okay? We do it because, for instance, here on page 46,
I also watched Twofer
comes from the University of Massachusetts.
and
the University
Rosa
of
String
Massachusetts
Works,
Medical Center,
several other
Dr.
luthiers.
Ann
I probably watched
Psychiatry
a
Department.
dozen
And she
guitar
says
techs and
that
luthiers.
the reason that you should meditate is because meditation is a more effective method of melatonin production.
Okay.
You do not produce melatonin until you're in a pitch black room, because the pineal gland doesn't open until it's in a pitch black room. Melatonin production. And here's the University of Western Ontario finding increases in melatonin after a single meditation session. So what do you need melatonin for, you say? You know, what's the purpose of that? Well, if you turn over to page 47, you'll see, for instance,
these necks are incredible. I don't think this is moved.
Rhythm of your body.
I can see why Eddie Van Halen picked Danelectro necks. Whatever they're doing here,
melatonin in cancer.
this is incredible.
Melatonin has been shown to inhibit the growth and metastasis of tumors in experimental animals. Patients who have breast cancer have lower levels of melatonin in their blood. It has a stimulatory effect on the immune system. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you ever tried to stimulate the activity of melatonin, the pineal gland of your brain? Probably you've never. Some of you have never ever done it because you hadn't a clue, because you went to church. Look at page 48, the bottom. Stress. Environmental stresses affects pineal gland function, impacting body alert. Page 49, multiple sclerosis. And where is this coming from? The Albert Einstein College of Medicine, Montefiore Medical Center, Bronx, New York. The last line. Melatonin is cyclical. It is proposed that the pineal gland may be the prime mover underlying the spontaneous exacerbations and remissions in multiple sclerosis. See, you're just starting to find out how your body works. The agent, at the bottom, the very last line, pineal melatonin may be a natural anti-aging hormone. Page 50, the immune system from the Department of Medical Biochemistry, University of Seville, Spain. It talks here about the protection of the immune system. There are interactions between the pineal gland and the immune system. The University of Truss in Alexandropolis, Greece, there is a connection between healing of Parkinson's disease and melatonin. So you get sick. Or people have been desperately sick. And would you ever think of, oh, well, I'm not going to tell them to meditate. Why? Because you don't understand the impact that melatonin in the pineal gland has on disease. Because nobody told you. Because you spent your life going to church. And you missed it. And so now we go through this point. We've reached all the way from the point of the temple. We reach up to the point of the crucifixion. We reach up to the point of the resurrection. And we reach to the point where here Jesus, at the point of the resurrection, says, wait for me in Galilee. And we look up the word Galilee, and we find in the stuff that we have here that the word Galilee means circuit. What's being said?
Which is a continuous circle, a circle.
That has resurrected within you as a result of your meditation is now moving through the circuit of your brain. When I said it last night, people looked at me and they said, they couldn't believe such a thing. But in order to prove it, I took it out of the Christian dictionary. So look at page 56 here in the material that I gave you. And on page 56 in the material that I gave you, what does it say? It says right about halfway down, before you go into Galilee, there shall you see him. Where shall you see him? You shall see him in Galilee. Right? Page 56.
I'm actually paying extra close attention to even the slightest wobbles because of how flat this neck is and how low the action has gotten.
And that's where you'll see him. And so we wait in this place.
And sometimes your checker can give errors because you use it, and as you can see here, there's like a dark edge forming there, and eventually that might actually work a kind of shape into it that can give you bad readings. Even though this is probably the best fret checker I've ever used. I've used several of them, and this is made in America, good price.
And the hand, according to the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 5, verse 5, wrote by the candlestick.
Oh yeah, I've also noticed a lot of times the 12th fret always has some high stuff going on.
The candlestick is your spine.
Seems to be that, and it makes me wonder if it has something to do with setting up these two
plaster is made up of lines,
inlays that do that.
The pineal gland of the brain is made of line, and so we have here at the point of the spine, at the pineal gland, this hand wrote on the wall. And it wrote this word,
Mene, mene, tekel, persen. Which means I will give
and I never saw it.
you to the Medes and Persians.
But somebody here saw it, Rich. And he found it. And it's interesting, because he finds things. He has an ability to find things. I was telling the people last night, and I said, you know, when you talk about the circuits of the brain, and you talk about the brain as a computer, a computer is loaded with things called gates. And that's where they're logic circuits, and they're called gates. Your brain has 12 gates. Why does it have 12 gates? Because there's 12 signs of the zodiac. There's 12 constellations in the ecliptic. It's all set for you. There you have it. You know, it's just absolutely amazing to me that people have the most significant...
I've heard it's a 12-fold universe and a 7-fold existence.
And they never even tried to turn it on.
It's the numbers behind
Never
it.
even bothered with it. Because they've never paid attention to all the instructions. So we have
Sticking my hand in my ink here.
Computer, and you know about the gates in the computer. And then you say, who is the most powerful man in computers in the world? And what's his name?
Bill Gates.
Gates.
That's funny.
Then if I go to Atlantic City, all the gambling mecca of the East Coast, and who's the most powerful man? Trump.
Yeah.
And I go to Las Vegas.
This was
The
made,
gambling mecca of the West, and who's the most powerful man?
this might be 20
Steve
years old.
Wynn. And so what have they said for thousands of years? As the energy was going through the resistors of the spine, up to the brain, the Buddhists would sit in the temples of Himalayas and all of these places for thousands of years, and as that energy would go through the resistors, they would chant, Om, Om, Om. And then come along this guy from Germany, and I forget what year it was, he turns around, he discovers the law, the law of resistance,
All right,
which
so
is named after him, Charlie Ohm. His name wasn't Charlie, but his name was Ohm.
His name wasn't Charlie.
What would happen? What would have happened if his name was Schwartz? They would have been up in the Himalayas, and they would have been sitting there with their legs crossed, and they would be chanting, Schwartz. Come on up, Rich.
All right, here we
Come on, you found this. But now, this is what I wanted to tell you. You got Ohm, you got Gates, you've got Trump, you've got Wynn, and now we got this guy who finds everything, and his name is Doppler. So tell us a little bit how you found it.
I'm not pushing, I'm just gliding this across the top of the fridge.
What is it, an echo thing that rotates things?
And I use this so I don't have to constantly retape
Yeah.
a block, and it gives me more precise control, and it's cheap, never runs out of grit.
When I was first in the Air Force, I went into a building one time, I worked special freight, and I walked in, and all the boxes, like 50 of them, big crates, said, "For Doppler only." So that was my first experience with the Doppler radar for the aircraft. So I said, geez, I'm all marking my name on it. But redshift in space also is based on the Doppler effect, which can tell whether stars are moving towards or from or away from us. Yeah.
In medicine, they use a Doppler, like if you go to a doctor and you think you might have an obstruction in your carotid artery or any artery, they take a Doppler and they put it over it to see if it's obstructed. So it removes the obstruction.
All right, so then tell us about what you're talking about. Okay. Okay.
And I don't want to take a lot off these frets because I want these to last. And as I said on the other video, this is likely the first time this has ever happened to this instrument.
And gematria in Hebrew and Greek works both ways. The Hebrew and Greek both work out the same, but basically M has a value of 40, E has a value of 5, and N has a value of 50. And it's 45, 55 if you just speak it, okay? The thing that when I found out, I was just reading, and I thought it was unusual in the Bible where
it actually told you in the verses afterwards what the words mean, and they were written down, and they weren't really translated. When they were translated, it wasn't written that way, it was kept in the original. The other thing that I found, I don't know if I'm going to go into this. All right. A lot of, in geometry, you add these numbers together. Okay? And when you do that, you
Jewish numerology,
which
geometry.
equals 1. And you do away with the zeros. You can add or subtract zeros.
All of these originally from Babylon, then converted to Egyptian, kind of carried like a football by the Jews throughout history, are the ancient mystery school kind of numerology and astrology.
There's 28 divisions in the Egyptian cubit. The very first measurement is 1, and the symbol that's given to that is this. So it does equal 1. The other thing I found after that was the original symbol for theta that we see like this in Greek. This was the original symbol for theta. Okay, and it evolved over the years into this theta. Then Bill said, well, what? He was United. He said, well, what relation does that have to the brain? Anything? And I said, no, I don't think so.
Theta waves.
So then Wednesday night I went home, and what I discovered was Pythagoras, when he used this symbol for geometry, if he gave the circumference a measurement of 1,000, doesn't matter if it's 1,000 apples, 1,000 oranges, 1,000 inches, the diameter comes up to 3/18. Okay? Now in Greek, the word theta is spelled theta, H-E-A. That's how you spell theta. When you get the values again from gematria, 9, 8, 301 is 3/18, which is the diameter of a circle. There's an old saying in Hermetic saying, God is a sphere. God is a sphere whose whole circumference is nowhere, but whose center is everywhere. It ties into quantum a little bit if you ever get into that. The other thing is, this was related to the sun. This is the symbol of Ra, the sun god. And the Greek word for sun is helios, which in Greek is written H and sigma. And the values are 8, 30, 10, 70, 200 equals 3/18. Okay? Now, then I said 3/18, 3/18, 3/18. I waited another day. And I said, all right, keep going. All right. And I said, well, what does 3/18 have to do with anything other than Helios, theta? And I said, theta, theta, theta. So if you look on your stuff on page 32, with all the brain waves, you know, with your stuff, Bill's stuff on page 32. Now you might consider this a stretch. I didn't, because this came to me, and I felt pretty good about it. The 3/18. Now again, staying within, you can add numbers, you can add zeros, you can, but you got to stay with these numbers. And when I looked at theta, the theta rhythm of the theta wave, it's the 8th letter, blah, 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 and I was looking at the cycles per second. And if you look up there, it's 4, which is 3 and 1, 4 to 8 hertz. Beta waves are 13, 1, 3 to 30 cycles, 3, 0. And alpha rhythms are 8 to 13, reverse it. And I just thought that kind of tied in for me. Something that I was looking for as brain waves, all these things kind of culminate. I didn't share that with you yet, but I just found it the other night.
Very good.
And then delta waves, anything under 6, and that's kind of easy to do.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Pretty much it.
And keep looking. Keep looking. Tell me this stuff. Very good. Thank you, Rich. Yeah, it's very meaningful to me to see, as people start to work at this and start to find these things and look at them, and it really becomes, it just becomes very...
Seems like this fret was really high up.
Very meaningful that you've taken this so seriously. Okay, so let's go on.
Yeah, I can feel it still.
when we're talking about, incidentally, when we talk about, numerology, what
Almost.
does numerology mean to you as a person here?
And I have to be really careful. I'm really just kind of
And that's why I
slowly,
invite you
carefully
around
edging off the top
May
in an
24th,
arch.
Saturday evening.
I'm kind of very carefully. I don't want to focus too much pressure on any one spot. I don't want the grinding to hang over and hit the board. I'm going to end up with a kind of flat fret to a crown.
It was the essence of the work of Pythagoras, who said all things are numbers. So please kind of set aside Saturday evening, May 24th at 7:30 p.m. and be here with us, and which we'll share together. But in a few minutes that we're going to remain here, let's go back and talk for a minute about Sama, okay? Sama, which means current. Now, and this is the person. The reason this is so interesting is when we talk about 45, 55, when we talk about this hand.
It's all by feel.
Now, this hand
It's completely
that
by
came
feel.
down and wrote on the board in Daniel chapter 5, verse 5. Remember, it never happened. Remember, a hand never came down and wrote on any board. Remember, this is mythology, and this is being given to you, and that's what makes it so significant that 45, 55 is there. There was an intent here, okay? But this Sama, which equates by the ancient people to the devil, which means current, or to Satan, which means current, okay? And if you look on page 60, which I'd like you to do for just a moment of the material, the stuff that you got on page 60, and you look at that word current, okay? And then look at impedance, right under current. It says impedance.
It really is just one spot
Measure of
right
the
here.
degree to which an electric circuit resists electric current flow, expressed in ohms. This is basically the answer to so much of our search. Because what we're talking about here is how does your brain work? What is required of it? What is required of the circuit, which is the brain? So in essence, we're being instructed how to resist the surging current. How to resist the surging current. The circuit resists the current, and the current is expressed in ohm. The circuit resists the current.
There we go. Okay.
And it's expressed in ohm. And this is everything that is involved in every bit of religious experience you've ever had. There has nothing happened in your life that has not happened as the result of electricity causing current to flow through the circuits of your brain. The devil or Satan is simply a form of electric current which must be resisted by the circuit of your brain. Because when the current is not resisted, you have an overload. You have a burnout. And the burnout that you recognize is stress, breakdowns, strokes, disease, all these types
Outbursts.
of things happen because there is no resistance to the current
People have to
that is flowing
vent.
into the circuits of the brain. Why? Because we never paid any attention.
And people also need to respect each other. We have a huge deficit in respect in this time.
And put into these
It is grand.
churches, and we study bizarre things like devils and demons and all this stuff and gods and things, and taken completely away from the reality of the fact that within us is a circuit. The circuit is run by a current. The current must be resisted. It's not that there's anything wrong with the current. The current is an absolute necessity. That's why God creates the devil as well as the good thing. The current is absolutely necessary. But you can't allow it to go in unchecked or it's going to cause you problems. And it causes, and you wonder, why do I feel the way I do? Why did this happen? And my husband is this, or my wife is this. But you remember, your husband or your wife also does not know about the resistance necessary to be in operation in the realm of the current that flows into the brain. So they've been on overload all of their lives. Most of us are 30 years old, 40 years old, 60, 20 years old, whatever it is, and all of our lives, our brains, our computers have been on overload. They're not functioning properly. So then you start saying, how do I think these things? Because your brain isn't functioning properly. And the reason it's not functioning properly is because you have not been putting the resistors where they should be so that the brain can have just enough current so that it can work right. If you look on page 56, please, and if you look on page 56 of the material that you were given, you'll see something that's And remember, everything that you're looking at is documented scientifically. All of this is scientific documentation. Okay, but if you look on page 56, you see, that should be, where is Wargate on page 56? Yes. Halfway down, it says, Matthew 28:2, there is a stone. The electromagnetic field rolls the stone away from the fornix. The angle causes the arc in the brain receptors. In Egypt, the pyramid was open to an angle of Orion, the gate of God, the OR gate, which is a computer logic circuit. And then it defines logic circuit, a computer switching circuit that performs problem-solving functions. What problem do you have? You say, well, geez, where do I start? I got all kinds of problems. And you find, why can't I solve these problems? Because the switch isn't opening. The switch isn't functioning. What if you're having a circuit of it? Say you've got this big family problem. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with the kid? What am I going to do with my husband? What am I going to do with my wife? And here's the switch. Now, in order for you, here's the understanding. This will bail you out of the problem. This will bring the money that you need. But there's a switch that's closed. Okay? And that in order for you to understand, the switch has got to be open. But there's no current to open the switch. The right amount of current is not coming into the brain to open the switch. And so you're never going to be able to figure this out. And the reason is there's no resistance. And so this circuit is operating on overload. It's not working properly. If you go into a computer, I go into a computer and I put all of this stuff in the computer and I put print and the computer says, not enough memory, not enough memory. I don't get anything. And I get frustrated. And I'm frustrated and the computer's frustrated because what the heck? I spent all of this money and he can't do this. Why didn't this stupid fool that sold me this thing tell me it doesn't have enough in here so that it knows to do this? But it didn't. Why? In other words, the IBM guy that sold me this said, it's up to you to put the amount of RAM into that. So you have to increase the RAM. And you know what happened when you were born? God said, it's up to you to pay attention to this thing and put the RAM and put the resistance in there that's required. Not me. I'm not going to do it for you. You do it. And what did you do? Do you know, do you have any idea that in the middle of a computer, in the point of memory, is a thing called RAM? Do you know that? When you look at page 16, on page 16b, in the middle of your brain is a thing called Amon's horn. Amon's horn. And if you look at page 16b, Amon's horn, and Amon's horn is the name of an Egyptian deity whose symbol is the ram. In the middle of your brain, you have a structure called RAM. In the middle of a computer is a structure called RAM. And they are both in the part of the brain responsible for memory. And so what do? Are you working on it? No, you go to church. And then you wonder, do you have a car? 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 Do you know how to drive it? Wouldn't it be great if you had a car and said, well, my car's down in the parking lot. Well, would you drive me home? I don't have to. Well, why don't you learn? Oh, my church told me not to touch that. I can't get involved with that. My church says I'm not allowed to touch the car. So your car sits there. Huh? Here's your television. That's a beautiful television. Oh, that's a good television. That's RCA TV. Look at that. 36 inches. Turn it on. I don't touch it. What do you mean I don't touch it? My church said, pastor said, never touch that. Devils will come out. we go in there and we kneel down with it. We kneel. We go like this in places where these fools want to say, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. You'll go blind. You know what I'm saying? Same thing. Same thing. And so all I'm asking you to do is say, do you care about your health? Do you care about your body? Do you care about your mind? Start treating your mind and your brain as an adult. And start considering the fact that as an adult, you have a responsibility to learn how to operate the computer that you have between your ears. You have missed 90% of life because you're going to use 10% of your brain. And you're being instructed how to use this, you see? And so we found here that the gate, which is closed, That gate is in the circuits of the brain, and Jesus says that at the part of the resurrection that he's going into Galilee, which means circuit. And look how important this is. How important is that word circuit? Look on page 57. And look how important this is. We're just about out of here, so just bear a couple of more minutes and you're gone. But if you look at the important derivatives of the word circuit, EI on page 57, you go down through January, Janus for archway, Ionis, the god of doors. Look at that, Rich. You see that? The god of doors. And then you get to Hinayana and Mahayana, which is the Sanskrit, in Buddhism, the mode, the knowledge, the way. And Jesus said, the way is narrow, and few there be who find it. The way is narrow, and few there be who find it. Because I'll tell you something. You know, when you think about this, you know what happened yesterday in Iran? They had an earthquake. Almost 3,000 people that were alive the day before yesterday are dead now. And so what am I saying? You know, that if they had meditated, this whole world is subject to what's coming out of your head. And that's what Buddha said thousands of years ago. He said the reason that you have this total upheaval in the atmosphere and in the environment is because all the negative vibrations coming out of the brains of billions and billions of people all over the place, causing all of this stuff. It's the same thing that when you go into your house sometimes you get bad vibes. Where are they coming from? Sometimes you brought them with you. Sometimes that house was beautiful. Everybody was singing, everything was good, and you were in a mood. I have had that happen to me once in a while, I'm in a mood. And as soon as you open the door, you come into the house, I'm in a mood. How are you, dear? How to go? I don't want to talk. In a rotten mood, and so what do? You retreat to your room, close the door. I'll fix everything. I will stay here in my room until somebody begs me to come out. That's the way I'll fix. And so you cause all of this stuff. Or else you go in to the house and you're feeling great. How are you today? And you can feel the vibes all over the place. So you create these vibes. Now, if you can create bad vibes in your house, and you can, what do you think happens when we got billions of people on the planet Earth, which is nothing more than a pimple on the rear end of the Milky Way? Billions of people having bad vibes. What's happening? The Earth is puking. What is this? Everybody's freaking out. Why? Because everybody's brain is on overload. Nobody knows. That's not what, nobody's got a reason. God's sitting up there. There's nobody not even resistant. The whole thing is burnout. They're all nuts. And they said to Jesus, go back, the second coming. He said, you're crazy. I'm not going down it. I'm going down it. Last time he was nailed. Now they have missiles. I'm not going down it. So this is the point. This is the point. The current must be. Give me 10 more minutes. We out here at 12:30. That be happy with you? All right. The current must be resisted. If the current is resisted, then the proper amount of current will go in here, and it will operate properly, and brain cells at the right hemisphere will start operating that hitherto have not operated. Resistance is the key here. Okay. And here is now why. Let's look one more time so we understand it. Can you feel on top of your shoulders thing? Is there a round thing up on top of here? Okay, that's a head. Inside of the head is a brain. That brain is a computer. Okay? As you see.
Once I get past this part, it's going to be easier. Because I have to be careful here. I've put some extra tape on. I don't want to. Even though this is kind of rubbery, it can kind of scuff and smush. And then that's why I would recommend probably getting the handleless ones like what Hosco has.
Then it must have resistance. It's the same as any other computer, and so you have to treat it exactly the same. You have to understand the circuits, you have to understand the current, and you have to understand the resistance. It is no different than that, okay? Now, if you look, please, on page 57, which you have over, I've got a quote from the encyclopedia right in the middle there. And it says the brain works somewhat like both a computer and a chemical factory. Brain cells produce electrical signals and send them from cell to cell along pathways called circuits. All right? Along pathways called circuits. So then Samael is the current that must be resisted by the circuit. And what does it say in James chapter 4 and verse 7? Look on page 989 of your Bible. And it says on James chapter 4 verse 7. And it sums up what you've got to do. All right? It says resist the devil and he'll flee. See? So what do we do? Well, what do you do? What do they do in church? You know what they say to church? Devil, I rebuke you. All right, this is what I want you to do. Sit in front of your computer. Or, let's go sit in front of this electric light. I rebuke you. And the light's going to say, I rebuke you too. And it's going to, and if it's time to burn out, it burns out. And when it burns out, you stand here, I lay hands on this thing in the name of Jesus. So what? It's not going to go on anyhow until you put a bulb into it. You got to screw it in. No matter what you do, you got to screw the bulb. So the point being, you cannot treat your brain any differently than you treat an electrical appliance. It has to have proper current, proper voltage, proper resistance. The circuits have to operate properly. And if you're going to neglect it, and I would ask you, before you come into this room, how many of you ever even knew that you had a circuit in your brain? How many knew you had any current in your brain? How many knew that you needed resistance? How many even paid attention? And how long have you been working on overload? And then you wonder, Jesus, why am I screwed up? Well, it's the same reason, because you haven't been taking care of yourself. You take care of your foot if it hurts, you take care of your stomach, you take care of your teeth, but the most critical thing that you have, the brain, you haven't a clue. And the reason that you haven't a clue is because you've been submitting yourself to all of these crazy people in robes with stained glass on them, all saying, stay with us, stay with us. Stay with us, pass the basket, give us your money. Listen, let us read the Bible together, and then you'll get a rich reward after you're dead. Sounds good to me. And you know, the point is, we keep coming back. Tell me more. Because you know what? Everybody knows one thing. Everybody dies. But have you ever seen one person in 3,000 years come back after they've died and said, this really works? Nobody. Now, one person has shown up and said, you know, I'm glad I gave that money because I got a place, I got a mansion on a hill in heaven. I got nothing, but I'm dead. All right. So why is this necessary? We're done, okay? In something such as a computer, you can only have so much current going in, or you're going to burn it out. If you have too much, you burn the circuit. You've heard of people burning out too much. Then you read about resistance. So how do you do this? And this is where we're in. How specifically do you do this? Let me put a word on the board. That's the instructions. That's the instructions. Okay? Look at page 60 in the material that I just gave you. Or you got it, read or whatever you got. Look at page 60. And on page 60, look at the word yoga. You see it in the middle of the page? Yoga. See the word it means? What's it mean? Yoke, doesn't it? All right? Now open the Bible at page 787. Page 787. Okay? Matthew chapter 11, verse 29. And what does Jesus say? Take my yoke. Take my yoga upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. And you shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. My yoga, take my yoga. How do I take your yoga? Practice the single eye. Take your soul. Seek within yourself for the kingdom. Take my yoga upon you, and you shall find rest.
If you haven't noticed yet, Bill Donahue relates prayer to meditation and believes that in a syncretistic way, the Bible represents lots of things hidden and not on the surface, allegorical and parabolic, like anatomy,
astrology,
And so then what is profound contemplation?
the way the body works. You know, I won't sit here and say I agree with absolutely everything he says, but it's a very intelligent, thought-provoking
You see?
show.
The perfect absorption of thought.
Hidden meanings is what it's called.
So there's solidity which overcomes
Okay, I'm making sure to get a straight, thin, straight line from my marker on each of these frets before I clean it up and then get ready to buff everything out and polish it out.
Fantasy. And you know what each one of us has taken instead of...
And honestly, I don't need anybody to tell me how wrong I am for listening to this guy. Like I just said, I can't honestly say I believe every single thing he says or subscribe to everything he says, but I enjoy listening to his show. You know, you have to make the decisions for yourself. I don't need anybody coming in and telling me how right or how wrong I am or instructing me on how wrong or how right Bill Donahue is.
They don't change the current of your brain. They don't apply the resistance to the...
He makes a lot of interesting points.
And so, Blavatsky put it this way: fantasy is an impediment, you can read it here, to our intellectual conception. And when we're agitated by the inspiring influences of divinity, if the fantasy intervenes, the enthusiastic energy ceases. The enthusiasm...
I can see on this one that I flattened out a lot. I have to really work to get that thin line, and it seems to be kind of flattening my fret out a little bit.
It's religion. It's emotionalism. It's feeling. It's the thing that so many people seek for. It's the very thing that will oppose our union with God. And the very last thing, fantasy, the very last bottom of the page, the creative, unrestrained fancy. Something that's such an invention that it is a creation of fantasy. Fiction characterized by a highly fanciful or supernatural element. Fiction. And our whole life has been consumed in the fiction of religion. And because of the fiction of religion, we have missed the reality that we are real entities with a real functioning computer that we have totally neglected because we have plugged ourselves into this circus that...
So any flat spots on a crown are going to buzz. And spots that are too thin will flatten out rapidly. You're making a slight kind of dome shape that the string will meet and rest at, and then that will be its note.
Thank you, Brian.
Much like a, well, okay, with a guitar, all you're ever doing is either playing an open note or making the note higher. Okay, so you can never go lower than your lowest note, and then all you're ever doing is making a higher note from that point on. So and the frets obstruct each other based on their level, and so ideally you want them to be in a way that when a string touches the fret based on the menial concave from that point to the bridge has no obstruction. So you don't want any obstructions, and so for that reason they often lower the last 4 or 5 frets into the pocket of the neck, meeting with the body of the instrument, so that there is no chance of obstruction. When you're up there on that end, then of course the grade of level from that point up to the saddles will control your clarity of notes and sustain and whatnot from the higher frets up to the saddle. But because if you decide to make them lower at that point, your strings can still ring out and be clear all the way up the fretboard. So, and this has a lot to do with how low your action's going to be, how low you're trying to get your action. If you want your action to be nice and low, then sometimes these higher frets here, it will help to lower them. So I might say 1, 2, 3, 4. Since this is a 21 fret bridge, there might be an extra of a 22nd or 3rd or even 4th. So a 24 fret bridge is a double octave neck because you have 12 frets for your first octave. So 24 would be 2 entire octaves of notes. So yeah, I'm pleased with how that's turned out. Get nice thin. When your marker line will get thinner, and of course what this means is you're creating kind of a ziggurat kind of pyramid shape along the edges of the frets that will then be curved by polishing, by sanding and polishing. And so now different grades of sanding, starting with maybe 1,000 grit all the way up to, you know, higher grits, maybe 600 grit or something, will then work away the frets and round them out and everything. And I've just found that a good sanding sponge will do that on its own. You don't, and you know, that again, king of unpopular opinion here, you don't have to run through 5 grits of sandpaper. And you know, of course, if you just think about it logically, if you start with 1,000 grit, then go to 800, then go to 600, then go to, or I'm sorry, let me reverse that. It's actually backwards. If you start at 500, then go to 600, then go to 800, then go to 1,000, you could do the entire job with 1,000. It would just take slightly more work. And what you're doing has to do with forming to the top of the fret to create that rounded edge. The forming happens through the different grades of sandpaper. You start with coarse, and then that takes larger chunks of the edges of the sides of the frets off. Then you get finer, and then that rounds those edges to be even softer and rounder, and then you get finer still, and then that rounds off even more of those edges. But the logic behind the sponge is that because it's a sponge, it actually wraps around the edges of the fret and does that rounding by the shape of the sponge. So, and I believe that's the result that I'm getting from the sponge, the sanding sponge. So I use it. And yes, it is less work in the long run, and I think the results are great. I've compared, you know, my results to other instruments, and the frets I do, they might not be the absolute blingingest mirror polish, but if you look at my very first video, which I also had turned into a series, my first In Bed with Guitars video is condensed, and it has sped up footage, which I don't know, I could do with this too if someone didn't want to have to listen to Bill or watch me ebb and flow through all these frets. It has sped up footage and less commentary, but it was actually over 5 hours of footage of putting a new bridge, new neck, and then setting up and somewhat perfecting a relatively cheap instrument to make it a really, really good instrument. And what it ended up being was one of my best instruments. I have I have almost 30 guitars, and of varying degrees of quality and value and workmanship. And that glary GST tooth, because of the work I put into it, ended up becoming an extremely good sounding and playing guitar. And on that video, if you look really close, you can see that I do achieve a mirror polish on the frets. It is not the clearest, cleanest, most perfect mirror polish you ever saw, but it is a mirror polish with the methods that I'm using. So you can too. And I recommend trying all the different things you want to try. If you want to try the Stu Mac guitar fret sanding kit with 7 grades of sandpaper, by all means, please do that. Have fun, enjoy it. Also, you know, enjoy, here's my sarcasm, also enjoy buying that over and over and over again. But to each his own. If you want to do that, please do that. If it works for you, that's excellent. I don't have endless money, and I don't have the time to be even working at it that hard or for that long. I'm a player. I like to play guitar first and work on them second. And there are a lot of people out there who don't play guitar very well, Leo Fender included. I don't think he played guitar at all, but can work on a guitar, or in his case, invent the guitar that everybody is currently playing. So there are also those like me who can play arguably well, almost to a professional level, write music and come up with countless songs and stuff, never get any credit for it or be recognized, and then working on guitars is second. It's not my number one thing. So, you know, there's a whole broad spectrum. There are also people, you know, on the other ends, there are people who love to work on guitars, but they can barely play them at all, or can't play them at all. And then there are also people who play really, really great. They're just like amazing guitarists that play like butterfingers smooth and super, super fast in every technique. And they literally take their guitar to a technician to have strings put on it. They don't even put the strings on their instrument. They have someone else do everything on their instrument. And so you get, you know, the whole wide spectrum of types. And I am on the end where I am a guitar player and musician and music maker first, and then the guitar work is just fun, and I really enjoy doing this, and I like being able to set up and work on and alter and modify and customize and prepare otherwise ready my own instruments. And I'm sure I could do this for other people too, and probably make money doing it if someone wanted to say, oh man, I kind of like your whatever, how that turned out. Would you do this for 50, 100 bucks, 200 bucks? Yeah, sure, maybe that's my calling. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing in the future with my life, is working on guitars. I don't know. But seeing I see some, even with the sanding, there are some small signs of wear still on this fret. I think I have a cat on my office windowsill. It's kind of wanting to be a rainy day. My daughter has picked up the habit of studying the weather closely and then informing me in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon what the weather is supposed to be based on the forecasts. And at first I think it was because of a hope that school would be canceled, or that we would say, oh, well, don't go to school, or something to that effect. And so I get told every time there's bad weather or a tornado watch or anything like that in any of the surrounding areas or anywhere in the tri-state. So yeah, as cute as that is. And so today it's muggy, and I love to have my office window open because my cat likes to hop up there and talk to me through the window. And there's a story behind that. You hear, cats have 9 lives, right? And when I was a kid, I just thought that related to the tenacity and the overall just the endurance of the animal. Like they seem to be able to handle themselves, and they don't die easy. They're tough little creatures. But then, since I've lived here, I've actually experienced somewhat of a phenomenon, and I'm sure other people have experienced this, and I've come to the conclusion that this phenomenon is actually the source of the saying, cats have 9 lives. at least 3 times I've had a cat. The cat died somehow, and then another cat that looked exactly like it appeared in my life and was very similar to the cat, almost in some cases unmistakable. I had a cat named Tabby, and a drunk guy heard that I worked on computers. I used to work on people's computers at a nearby trailer park, and I used to work on friends' computers. I worked on my own computers, built my own computers, and I love computers. I play games on them and program on them and stuff. He brought me his computer. He had his wife with him. My cat came up and rubbed against his leg. My cat's name was Tabby, and she was a Tabby. He proceeded in a drunken stupor to stomp on my cat, crushing it, and it ran away and hid. When it ran away and hid, we couldn't find her. One day I heard some shuffling, and I went and I looked under one of my chairs, and my cat was under the chair dying. I took the cat to the vet. The vet said the cat is going to die soon. There's really nothing anybody can do about it, but to help her, here are these steroid pills. I then had to pick my cat up, pry her mouth open, and force a steroid pill into her gullet daily. And this kept her alive for a while. Eventually she died. I was in my backyard, and the wife of the drunken idiot who killed my cat was talking to me on the phone. I was sitting in the backyard. I had a little portable phone, and she was saying, you know, I'm really sorry about what happened. I wish things had happened differently. I'm really sorry about all of that. And they were getting a divorce. They were going through a divorce, and you know, all that stuff was happening. And at that very moment, another cat that looked exactly like Tabby came under my fence in my backyard and then came up to me. This was all right in real time. The cat stayed with us. We named the cat Tabby too. And she was essentially a perfect clone of Tabby and acted like her. Okay. Fast forward several years, we had some black cats happen upon us. Some of them, the ones that have like just a little tiny tuft of white fur on their chest, but they're otherwise black. They're like 98% black. We had some kittens that were like that. We had a couple of them. One of them got killed by accidentally being ran over by somebody. It wasn't me. And the other one lived, and we named him Sonny. Sonny was the smartest cat I've ever known in my entire life. He was very special. And at the time, when he was an adult and would hang out, these were always outside cats. I'm super, super allergic to animal dander and corn silk and pollen and ragweed and dust and all kinds of stuff. Different story. I'll tell that one later. But so Sonny, I was up in my office, which is upstairs. It's right across from me, and I was having some emotional trouble in my life. My relationship was waning. I had very little friends or companionship, and I mean, it takes a man to admit this, I guess, but I'd cry sometimes. I'd be in my office and I'd just weep. And my cat, Sonny, started climbing up into my office window and talking to me and hanging out with me. And now Sonny was so smart that you could let him right in the office window, and then he'd hang out, and then he would walk right out the office window, full knowing that I'm an outside cat and the outside world is where I belong. It wasn't a problem with him. So Sonny eventually got cancer in his neck and died, and some time passed. And then another black cat, this time we met him when he was grown up, happened upon us and started living in our yard. He looks almost exactly the same as Sonny. I mean, if you saw photographs of them, you'd think he was Sonny. He's nearly unmistakable. And he is an outside cat, but kind of wants to be an inside cat. If you let him in the house, he'll hide and he'll try to not go out, and we can't have him in here. So I don't let him in the office window. But recently, he has started to climb the tree that Sonny climbed, jump onto the little roof part that's over our kitchen, and then jump up onto the sill of my office window and do the exact same thing Sonny did, talk to me. He would just talk to me, and so that brings me to that final understanding that cats have 9 lives, maybe not just because of their tenacity, but because they like resurrect in your presence and then they're right there again. Like, this has happened to me several times in my life. Cat, love the cat dies some horrible death, and then another cat that looks exactly like that cat comes into our lives and fills that void. And it's happened enough to be like, wow, something is really going on here. It's like it's a magic of a certain type, I think, like the universe or something. So yeah. And he's such a good cat. And his name is actually, it was originally Scrimbo is what they named him. I didn't even know what that meant until I was watching Urban Rescue Ranch, which is that really great YouTube show where the guy's like, good morning everybody, and he's got all tons of rescue animals he's taking care of. He had a little prairie dog named Big Ouncerton, and that prairie dog died recently, and he's just taking care of adorable animals all the time. And I heard him say one day to like, and then he said Subscrimbo, and I went, Scrimbo, that's where my son, my oldest son, must have gotten, because he watched it before, he must have gotten that term Scrimbo from Urban Rescue Ranch, or from something like that, like a modern term for subscribe. Then they started calling him Spigot, and so his name became Spigot amongst them, but I still call him Scrimbo. So to me, he's still Scrimbo, and I call him Scrimbo, and we're best friends. My son moved out. The only kids left are my 2 youngest, and so I call him Scrimbo, and me and him are best friends. He's a really good cat. I think sometimes animals know better than humans when you need somebody to talk to or somebody to hang out with you. And I lead a very secluded, lonely life. I won't say my life isn't fulfilling, because I get to be with my youngest son and my daughter, and they are just the most excellent people. They have the biggest hearts and the brightest spirits and are just the best people. They are truly good people, and to be able to be around them is very fulfilling. So I won't say that I am an unfulfilled and that I'm, incredibly lonely, but I will not lie. I am incredibly lonely. I don't usually get to talk to people that are my age, and then when I try to chat with people that are my age online, guess what? My 10-year-old daughter and my 9-year-old son are infinitely more mature than the 30 and 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people that I'm chatting with online. They are the most immature people that I have ever talked to, tried to communicate with, and it doesn't bode well for humanity, the level of the depths that they've lowered themselves to in the realms of ad hominem and just paranoid, blinded perception. You just can't communicate. Just try. See if you can communicate with the people today. Just see. See if they don't come up with a horrible name to call you. See if they don't isolate and browbeat you, criticize you, judge you horribly. So yeah, I was having friends and they started backstabbing me and calling me names and treating me like crap in the music room on a chat website. I'm a musician. I go to the music room. I post music videos. I post my own music videos. I talk about music a lot. guitars and instruments and stuff. But then I went in and said, oh, well, I got to go do stuff today. I might come back later to the music room, or what I've come to call the self-righteous pothead judgment hall. Or no, the self-righteous stoner judgment hall. That's what I'm calling the chat room that I'm part of. Because that's what they are. They're self-righteous stoners that do nothing but sit in judgment upon others and then entertain themselves with their delusions. Oh yeah, this is nice. It's getting shiny. A couple of places here that are, I don't know, I'd like to be more shiny if I can get them. Yeah. And you know, there are rules. They say the rules of this particular chat room are: do not speak rudely to each other, don't call each other names, stuff like that. Just basically the whole, you know, behave yourself rules. Then it says, if anybody breaks these rules, please report them to the moderators. And of course, no one ever does anything about anything that anyone says. Someone could call you a murderer or whatever. They could call you any kind of manner of terrible thing. They call you anything. They'll call you whatever. And then if you follow the rules of the chat room and actually report them for calling you or other people terrible names, nothing will happen. No moderators will come in and do things. No one will, you know, suspend or ban them or anything. They're right there doing exactly the same thing. It's essentially the equivalent of taking your kid to a G-rated movie, and then when you walk through the door, you have this feeling, I am a responsible adult that's taking my child to a G-rated movie. I expect it to follow rules that will not, you know, harm my child. And then you sit down, and the movie's like, fucking shit, assholes, beavers, wieners. And it's like, great, we're gonna go now. We can't watch it. It's exactly the same thing. It's exactly how it is. And people are so disrespectful. Seriously. It's really sick. Anyway. Alright, I've done a lot of polishing here. Let's get these. I just want them to be good. So yeah, treat each other with some respect. You don't know anybody else. You're not in another person's head. You're not feeling that person's heart. You're not in their world. You don't know them. You see some person's little avatar on the internet, that's the best that they ever looked. You start talking with them, and you have absolutely no idea where they are, what their world's like, what they're going through. Don't be so presumptive. Don't be so don't insinuate so easily that you understand someone else or what their life is like or what they're going through. Don't hurl insults at people that you don't know. It really makes you look weak and sick. And be sympathetic towards people. Try to get to know somebody. Appreciate them for who they are. Try to befriend somebody and actually befriend them. Don't be so ready to stab someone in the back. Stop all the witch hunts where you have decided everyone's going to hate or attack somebody, and then you're at the arrowhead of the movement. You're the spearheader of the movement that's bringing everyone to that point. I'll tell you, in chat rooms, in the music chat room, something I never talk about is veganism. But if somebody asks me about it, maybe they will read my profile or say, oh, I heard you're a vegan. I watched a video where you ate vegan corn dogs. Oh God, you just opened it up. Now everyone is on a witch hunt. And then one person or a couple people will spearhead a anti-vegan campaign about how retarded I am and make sure to attack me relentlessly in the music room. The one thing I never do in the music room is sit there and bring it up. So I did in this video because I was about to eat my breakfast. And that happens with myriad subjects. There are endless subjects that don't relate to music at all, and someone there's got to bring it up and start slinging mud and rocks and accusing people of things and attacking people. They don't have anything better to do with their lives than to bring other people down. I call them shade casters, because you go into a room and there's some nice bright sunshiny people there that are communicating, and maybe one or two, and then there's about 50 shade casters that are all just hurling insults and judging people and spearheading witch hunts. This really makes me sick, honestly. I think it makes me literally, legitimately ill. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a quick test of the emergency fret rocker system. Yeah, still a little bit on that one from earlier. Anyway, okay. Man, it's so tiny. That one's... And once the relief gets put on, I feel this neck is going to come forward with just maybe like an actual smidgen of movement forward, a measurable smidgen of forward movement. But yeah, I watch a ton of luthiers and I watch Olaf, the violin maker. I watch Tuford, the guitar tech luthier guy. I watch Tanya. I watch many others, and I honestly can't even just remember and recall all the names of all the guitar tech luthiers. I watch Philip McKnight. He's super fun. I listen to him a lot too. I'll listen to him just talk and talk. He's fun. I really love how respectful he is. He seems to just be a really super respectful person. And I don't mean disrespect to people. I've spent the past couple of weeks defending myself to stoner, judgment, paranoid types over so many things that have nothing to do with music or guitars or the things that I'm actually into. I can't seem to make friends. All right, so I don't know, I was kind of under the impression that weed had become a tool for intellectuals, but now I'm absolutely confirmed tenfold it is still the chucklehead, paranoid, delusional drug of the masses. I had a attachment that was perfect for this. Let me see, is that it? Hmm? I'll try this. I speak my mind though, in my own little world in here, working on my stuff. There is no one to offend. And if you took offense, remember, from my position, there is no one to offend. If only the trees and the plants and cacti and thistles and the clouds and all would raise up arms. And I am well educated on the subject. So you're talking to somebody who didn't fabricate things as much as I was educated, and you can question it, but don't question me until you question those who educated me and disprove them. Just like with veganism, something people don't understand. Whenever you argue with a vegan, you're not just arguing with them. You're arguing with literally thousands upon thousands of doctors, dietitians, scientists, climate activists, and normal people. You're arguing with more than just one person. When you tell me that I'm wrong, you're telling the former president of the American School of Cardiology, who massages people's hearts back to life, teaches people how to keep you alive. You're calling him wrong. Doctors who use veganism to cure people's heart disease and type 2 diabetes to where they no longer have those problems. You're calling them wrong. You're calling climate activists who are watching giant islands of floating garbage and watching runoff destroy the ecosystem and watching animals being tortured and slaughtered. You're arguing with everyone. And I don't think people get that. They isolate one person, point the finger at that one person, call them all kinds of names and stuff, but if you're arguing with me, you're also arguing with everyone who believes the same thing I believe. And in the case of things that are actually scientifically provable, you're arguing with reality. So, and we have a big problem with that. We have a problem with, people just arguing with the truth when the truth is plain and prevalent and discernible and apparent. So yeah, hopefully this will work. And I'm seeing already the frets look pretty good. They're shiny, crowned, polished. It's the first time the guitar's had fret work done, and I just hope this neck lasts another 23 years or more. And I don't think people, I don't think anyone ever thinks that. That's something void of the realm of the intellectual, is that when you argue with one person, are you ever thinking that there are countless other people that have that same exact view? It seems like people, and then people will, once they realize they're wrong or that they might be wrong, then they'll resort to nitpicking. They'll figure something out. They'll come to a new conclusion. Quite often they'll attack another component. They'll find some other thing, anything to hurt you or to make you look bad. Okay. So like, anything at all. So for me, I had to admit I was wrong. I did. I had to admit I was wrong. I used to think, oh, well, you got to eat meat. And my foolish reason was, if you don't eat it, then it's just going to go to waste. But it was wasteful to create it. It wasted more to create it than could ever be wasted giving it up. So I was in error. You have to be ready to admit you're wrong about certain things. And it's not that you should live in a state of constantly, proving yourself wrong and auto-correcting yourself, but people do need to reserve the right to change. I think in the Church of the Subgenius, Bob R. Dobbs would say, got breaks, and that's that recognized protective stance where you're ready to change your mind if you need to, because people lose that. They lose their brakes, and then they go headlong into something disastrous and destructive, and then it becomes something where there's no way they could ever change, quite usually because they would have to admit that they were wrong. Wow, just admitting that you were wrong about something is so disastrous to your ego that you absolutely refuse to change no matter what. And we live in that state of perpetual weakness where people are mentally, physically incapable of change to the point where it's disastrous. The consequences are disastrous. So we've had this wave of people giving up their veganism, and then everyone laughs and mocks them, and they give you their reasons. Their reasons are boyfriends, girlfriends, popularity, mild discomfort, pretended illnesses. They're all of a sudden they have a medical degree and they have auto-evaluated themselves, and all it could be is their unpopular diet change. But then also trailing behind it, and in a really fun, coherent, and relative pattern, is the carnivore diet giver-uppers, which I find in probably the same way, but even more so, just entertaining. Because obviously, if all you do is eat nutritionally deficient, growth hormone, parasite, and feces-ridden animal flesh, and that is all you eat, all of the time, every single day, you are going to destroy yourself. So, all growing up we heard, you need to eat more leafy vegetables, have a carrot instead of some chewing gum or something. You got to eat some applesauce, have some, and then we hear that, I heard that all growing up, have a salad, you need to eat more roughage, you need to eat more fiber, all these vitamins, you're missing out on all this stuff. And then one day you go, you know what? I'm not going to eat any meat. Oh God, you're going to be protein deficient. You're not going to get your vitamin B12 and you're going to die. You'll look how sickly you are. You have no energy. Oh, you're dying right now. And so then they start that kind of rebellious counter wave of carnivore dieters. You are not a carnivore. No matter what you think or say, you are not a carnivore. If you walk out into the woods and you need something to eat, you can grab an apple, a pear, right off a tree. You can eat a lemon. You can dig up a tuber potato root. You can eat leaves and things and roughage right off of trees, literally right off of it. You can eat it. You can pick wheat, eat it. You can eat things right out of nature, okay? But the human body is not prepared to grab a pile of roadkill and tear its body open and start eating its internal organs and fur and bones. That is a carnivore. A carnivore has a trigrade stance. It has a super acidic digestive system. It eats a couple of times a week sometimes. They're up at night. They are cancer detectors who detect hobbled, injured, mentally deficient or elder animals that break away from the pack to thin the herd to balance the ecosystem. You are not a carnivore. And humans grow an animal intentionally, mutate it in a sick fashion, torture and kill it, fully knowing it's sentient. And then
eat it and give themselves cancer. We are not carnivores. You are not a carnivore. You can lie to yourself and say because you go to Arby's, that makes you a carnivore. So we're going to get this new wave of why I quit the carnivore diet. And where roughly 90 to 100% of the why I quit the vegan diet excuses are complete BS. Usually it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, family, social situation. Has nothing to do with medical anything. Unless they were starving themselves and only eating bananas every day all the time, or only eating twice a week and eating nothing but rice. I mean, you ruin yourself doing that stuff. That's not an actual vegan diet. It's supposed to be a balanced diet, except it's vegan. But we're going to get real, legit excuses from the carnivore guys. They're going to be like, oh, well, because my LDL cholesterol is so high that I have almost 100% blockage in my veins and I'm dying. My heart is now dying. I have heart disease now. I'm bordering on diabetes. I'm having sick problems. And you're going to see actual, real medical concerns with the why I stopped a carnivore diet wave of videos that are happening. So yeah, fun. Okay, so I've noticed now I've relaxed the strings and I've tested out everything, and I've confirmed through the way the notes sound and the strings behave my previous suspicion that there was a slight back bow, and yes, I have a back bow. With my level, I've noticed that that with everything relaxed, there's that back bow. So it's almost perfectly straight. I would say too straight when under string tension, and so that's actually causing some problems. So the way to fix this is to adjust the truss rod, which with this particular guitar, as I explained in the last video, is going to be the most difficult, but it's something that needs to be done. So it's going to be fun, I'm sure. It's going to be an experience. I'm also considering cutting this card so that it's actually level. I'm going to put another screw in this back plate here, and I don't know if that will make it free floating though. And so I'm on the fence about whether I should do that, because this is going to create a slight deformity to the back plate, which over time will become permanent. So to avoid that slight deformity in the back plate, and to make this even more like the original, I might cut this card down the side so that it just fits perfectly the way it would naturally. Okay, so yeah. Now, my videos don't get a lot of views, and I know that well, some of my ideas and what I believe or what I know might seem controversial, especially with regards to diet and you know, just uncomfortable subjects like animal cruelty and sentience and things like that. So just know this: I'm an individual and so are you, and you have the reasons you believe and think the way you do, and I have the reasons I believe and think the way I do. And sometimes you just need to get it off your chest, and I've had a really hard time the past couple of weeks. It's been culminating into basically me coming to this same conclusion that I have several times in the past decade or more with regards to social media, that I just don't have a place amongst the social media-ites. You know, maybe a better term would be media socialites or whatever, but and you hear people deal with so many things. Like just yesterday, a person was talking about their beliefs in the music chat room that I was attending, and of course
another person pointed out that what they believed in is considered communism. And then a huge wave of anti-communism ideals and personal attacks came from other users. And what the person was talking about would really seem like, far left kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe it would be considered communist in a way. But, and I can't say I agreed with what he was saying. I mean, I believe in, and that's something that well, okay, let's put it this way. Most people, when they hear you're a vegan, automatically think you're a radical left, like Democrat, far left. And I'm not. I'm about middle and leaning to the right. I'm just a person that also listens to science and facts. That's why I'm not a far right. I'm not like some fundamentalist, fictional mindsets thinking that there is no global impact from humans. I refuse to believe that every scientist and, all these people studying the agricultural world and studying our world could come to a legitimate conclusion that there is no environmental impact from humans. We are making a considerable environmental impact. But my idea about how those things need to be dealt with, because I also believe in the Constitution and our rights, could never become what would be considered radical left. I believe in veganism because it's healthy, logical, it respects the sentience of animals, and it's something about, also about the environment. But I don't think that forcing people into a position of regulation is the way to handle it. Education is a good way to handle it. People have to accept it. When enough people die of heart attacks and we can show them that they're dying of heart attacks because of what they're eating, that's going to help. So, I mean, I am a strong Second Amendment enthusiast. I believe wholeheartedly in the Second Amendment. I'm also vegan and believe in animal sentience and I'm against animal cruelty. But I also understand, because of science and the environment and the world we live in, that pest animals sometimes have to be eliminated. For instance, if nutria were not killed in some of the southern states, it would very negatively impact crops. There's this mindset, and it's erroneous from a lot of the far left, that hunters are cruel people who enjoy murdering animals, and that's why they do what they do. I was a hunter and a tracker and a trapper as a small child and as a young teenager, and my second stepfather was a award-winning hunter. Also is a very good person, an electrician, had a big heart, and had his heart broken a lot. And he took me along with him, and I learned how to trap and track, and I trapped muskrats, and I hunted and stuff like that. And you learn that conservation is the platform by which hunting is regulated. And so a conservation officer studies droppings and in the case of deer, for instance, let's just consider deer. A conservation officer studies the presence of deer. The conservation officer then realizes and comes up with an estimate. I think that's straightened it out a lot. The estimate of the impact of deer on the environment brings them to their conclusion of how many deer is proper to count as sport. And so they're not there to just let people who like to murder animals go out and kill animals for fun. It is something people enjoy doing, and I don't find any joy in that. But I'm not going to be a fool and say that it has no actual legitimate place or that it doesn't serve a purpose. It regulates animal populations to avoid calamity. If you let animals just run crazy willy-nilly without any type of regulation, then in the case of deer, they will overpopulate, and it can spread disease, it can affect all kinds of things. It's an ecosystem, and animals eat this and that and the other, and the deer are part of that ecosystem. If there are too many deer, it will throw the ecosystem out of balance. You don't want to overhunt an animal, but hunting, as far as what my education would lead me to believe, is not just mean-spirited people who love to kill things going out into the woods and murdering whatever they can. People who are like that do exist, I'm sure, and those people are not good, and I would be against that. But I won't say that it's not common for people to be educated to that degree on the actual purposes of hunting. And so I love fish, and I might go and fish and catch a fish and never eat it, and I will put it back in the water all the time. That's the only chance for somebody who really loves animals to get that close to a fish. And also, you're in nature, and you can spend time with your kids and stuff. And there will be a whole huge subsection of strict vegans or even leftist radicals who would say that I'm not even a vegan. But I assure you, I am a vegan. I believe that animal cruelty should be stopped. Eventually, we should try to eliminate practices that involve exploiting or killing animals, especially unnecessarily. But I'm also the type of person that understands logic and reason. And so I wouldn't say, oh, you shouldn't kill those body lice. Those are living creatures. No, kill the lice. Get them off your head. I wouldn't say, or get them off your body. I wouldn't say you should let roaches run free in your house. No, you should kill them so they don't harm your home or spread disease. And I think a lot of vegans are like that. They have a deeper understanding because they're not fooled. They're not coming up with some radical way of doing things that's actually impossible. It's avoiding harming animals in the most way that you can do that, and especially in diet and the things that you participate in, things you purchase, and everything. And I wouldn't endorse, the recreational hunting practices of the rich. Like, when you show some sick rich kid up in the mountains killing some rare, animal and then showing it off. Of course I'm opposed to that. That is wrong to do that. But I can't say that there isn't a logical reason to hunt certain animals or to control the populations of certain animals. I'm thinking more of the reasons, the logic, and the purpose of these things, and I'm not being a radical person. So yeah, I have views that actually reside in both realms. I believe in many of the things that would be considered right, and I also believe in some things that people consider to be from the left, and I think that if you really study people's hearts and minds, you'll find that no one is really all the way one way or the other. But this person in the chat room was talking like, of course, he was speaking in a way that was perceived by other users as a belief in communism, and of course people come in with their negative ideas and negative beliefs, and they make it very difficult for that person to be there. I don't go there to judge people. I'm not in that place to judge people and try to make enemies and stuff. Like I said earlier, when I'm in a chat room about music, I don't bring up veganism unless someone else does. And if they bring up veganism, I might comment on it, but I already know that the landslide of extremely uneducated and disproportionate responses are going to just pile down and make it, they're going to make it in a completely less than worthy experience. It's not even going to be worth bringing up or talking about, especially to the majority of people that are in those rooms. You might as well tell it to the rocks or the walls, because no one's listening. And if you watch me and you got mad at me for what I said today, I'm sorry. I already know not many people are watching my videos, and I am not what would be considered a popular YouTuber. And I'm doing this for myself and for anybody who wants to learn the same way I'm learning and doing things, and I reserve the right to express my opinion, even in the realm of sensitive subjects like veganism, things like that. And if I helped you in any way, or helped you to come to, you know, a different conclusion, or to even consider something you hadn't considered before, then that's good. And if I made an enemy out of you and now you don't like me, no one talk to me no more, well, I'm sorry. There's really nothing I can do about that, is there? And I can tell you, so many people were like, oh, I like that guy, let's talk to that guy. And then they find out how I am and what I believe in, and I don't want to be your friend, I don't like you, and you have to be wrong no matter what. So it is not new. The experience, it leads me to having little or no social connections. And I can tell you, I don't think that most vegans become that way because they want to isolate themselves from all connections with humans. They don't want to be left out of everything. They don't want to be that. But it is an effect of being radically different than everyone else. But okay, so I've turned the truss rod a little bit. I've got it back on, and now with the string tension off, it is flat and with no back bow. And so by that rationale, once string tension is added, I should get a slight amount of front bow, which will raise the strings. I might need to slightly lower the saddles, and hopefully this will get rid of any kind of buzzing or anything. A back bow, of course, will, like I said, will cause buzzing. So will too much of a front bow. But most of the time, you create a ever so slight forward relief in the neck. That's just how guitars are. That's the way the instrument crumbles. And so yeah, if you can tolerate listening to me, then you're learning maybe tolerance, so a little bit of tolerance, because sometimes people get to a point where, you know, they become volcanic. You've created a pressure within them, and they have to send that pressure somewhere, and cities were destroyed, right? I feel like, you know, they say that the Ninja Grandmaster, Masayake Hatsumi, the 33rd Grandmaster, very, very elderly, old man now, who inherited the 9 schools of the Bujinkan from Takamatsu, said that men warring is sometimes, or men warring is like a woman during her monthly period. And sometimes I feel like that. I feel like I just, like nothing can go right, and I just got to say something about it. And so yeah, I'm probably, as much as I hate it, I'm going to have to just go away from social media again for a long time. I think last time I was away from social media for like a year or more. And for me, social media is going to chat rooms and talking to people, attempting to develop what would be, you know, relationships over the internet where friendship and, you know, possibly some like interests like music or video games, or even something deeper like programming or writing music can be part of it. But, you know, it's always something. It's always something. It's, you know, they love my music. Wait, you're a vegan? Forget it. You're wrong. I'm going to go eat 20 steaks tonight because you dared say that. Oh, you like watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. That means you're a horrible pervert, Japanese sympathizer, sick person. It doesn't matter if your poetry is a work of literary genius. I have decided that you're some sick monster because you like Sailor Moon. So, oh God, no, you can't do that. And there's no way to win. There's no way to win, because when you want to get to know somebody, at least from my world growing up as a child, you share, sometimes gradually, sometimes like a landslide, and then you get to know each other. And honestly, when I was a kid, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, we were very tolerant of each other when we were friends. I'd have a friend and he would say, "Oh, I don't think that at all. I think that's stupid." And then we'd go right along having fun and hanging out with each other. Today, you have keyboard warrior, mind and thought crime attack postures, where if you say something that people don't agree with, now they will click a button and you're no longer their friend. And then they will block you so that they can't hear what you say or read what you say. And then they'll tell everyone else something they've come up with about you. Then everyone will come together. It really is like, if you think of the working mind of a paranoid delusional schizophrenic, that must be what that one paranoid delusional schizophrenic mind is going through. And you're seeing it happen like several people are representing the broken neuron network of one brain. And one of them gets the hint of an idea. They begin getting paranoid. The paranoia begins to communicate with the imagination and the broken logic centers of the mind. This begins to come up with scenarios. The scenarios then fabricate in a state of delusion ideas, and then those ideas start to bud and become beliefs, and then the beliefs become voices from all directions that are so unique that they are almost separate identities. And that's really, I think you could easily compare the way people dismantle each other in social media, the character attacks and the kind of false friendship backstabbing practices of people in social media. You could compare it to the mind of a paranoid delusional schizophrenic. I think that it is a completely legitimate comparison. And I'm not there for psychos to eat me alive. I'm not there to be attacked by people with, apparently, no empathy in the slightest bit. There is no empathy there. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They're caustic, acidic, judgmental people. And, if you've been online, you probably have had a very similar experience, especially if you're from my generation. And there's no place for honesty. There's no place for expression. There's no place there for you to actually open up. Once you open up, then your soft parts are exposed, and then they're biting and clawing and kicking at those soft parts until they can feel that they've created a damage reaction. And that's what's become. I think after 20 years of that building up, that's an actual type of person now. It might have lied dormant in the human mind and broken in the human condition, waiting to emerge, and then it has its platform to emerge. But it is a thing now, and it didn't exist before. And it's really damaging, and it's really sickening. I really do. I feel like, I think it has to be stopped. And sometimes people with more communist mindsets will say things like, well, people shouldn't even be allowed to do that. I'm not that guy. I do believe in freedoms and rights, but it's like, what's the guy's name? Louis C.K. or Louis C.K., the ginger, the kind of sawed-off ginger comedian, okay? He said, that I think this is a good way to put it. He said, we are the most advanced and scientifically creative and inventive culture, but we are like the most spoiled, rotten, shittiest people in the world to have all of that convenience. For everything we have, and for all of the amazing feats of technology and things that we've discovered and how we do things in our world, it has produced the most
broken, unapproachable people. The people they are truly spoiled rotten, like actually rotten people. They are sick and rotten. Like, is there someone out there in the world that actually understands how you are to deal with each other, how you are to respectfully talk and communicate with each other, how to actually be a real friend in the world today? I think that the necessary binding conditions of social culture are at risk for this, like, animalistic, almost like barking, bird song signaling, automated reactionary, bestial kind of cohesion, where there's a flashing of a sign and then there's an automated response, and it always goes downhill. It's always negative. The reason is always to isolate and to attack and to belittle or to berate someone or to devalue them. I just keep feeling like it draws back into psychoanalysis. Like, the best way to describe it is if you were to take one person's mind who is suffering from paranoid delusional schizophrenia and then give these people who are grouped together in a little clique components of the human brain, you would see that it's a perfect analogy. They are like, it's like trying to talk to a paranoid delusional schizophrenic person. And if you try to talk to more than 10 people in one place online at one time. So it is sad. It is. It's sad. Anyway, okay, I've got the shim is set back. The relief has been added. As I'm looking at it, the action looks better, I think. But it needs to be tuned up so that the bridge can raise. Once the bridge raises, the action will be slightly higher. I can adjust the saddles accordingly. So yeah. Alright, so now I'm tuning this. But yeah, think about the ancient world. Just wonder for a moment, if you would, about the words. What word do we use today? For a group of people online communicating with each other, we call it a forum. Well, in the ancient world, the forum was obviously like any other interaction. It was corporeal and it was local. You did not go and you would not dare say the things that people say to each other online in a forum, in the real forum. They would probably kill you, straight up. You know, like if you started accusing people of things that they accuse people of online, yeah, they would stone you to death. They would not tolerate it because you'd seem like something was like mentally wrong with you. You'd seem like well, something's wrong here. This string just dropped out of tune. I think maybe the ball end had dropped down into the little catch behind the saddle. But yeah, think about it. Just think about it if you would. Imagine if you would. It would probably be a great thing to portray. Like pick some actors and then just pick an online interaction that's particularly spicy and conflicting, and use it as a script. You know, take a chat room, internet conversation between several people, maybe 10 to 20 people, and hear them all attacking and berating and verbally abusing and accusing and accosting each other. And then portray that as though all of those people are standing in the same place, within reach of each other, in a true ancient world forum, and just see. You know, you already know. You know that the reactions would be extreme. You know, would you tolerate people calling you the things people call each other in those chat rooms and forums in real life? And I can tell you, if you dig up pieces of history, you're going to find on this day they gathered in this place. Then this person was talking about this situation. Then this other person said this about the situation, and then they killed that person. So it's just like, but then today, it's like, we're going to say whatever we want because we're in our grandma's basement, and there's nothing you could do about it. You could never stop us. We're going to say what we want because we know it hurts you. We don't even care about truth or any kind of proof or anything like that. We know we're saying this to hurt you, and we're going to hurt you. And, it only exists here and now. You only get that type of reaction and that type of interaction in our world today. And it's sickening. It's not just sickening, though. I personally think that slanderous type of behavior, the defamation of character, the accusations, they should hold more weight. Okay, let's consider, just for an instant here, we know about things today like doxing, right? Doxing is going to where somebody lives because you looked it up somehow online. Perhaps you found somebody's name or their location and you isolated their address. Then you went to where they lived. It's not necessarily illegal to do that. Information's all over the place, right? But suppose you started calling somebody a pedo or something over and over and over again. And everybody decided in paranoid, delusional mind that that's what you are. And then other people believed it. And so they decided to go where you live and harm you or harm your family or cause some type of disturbance because they believed that. Well, because of freedom of speech, which I totally believe in and support and endorse, these people can get away with that. They can defame your character openly. They can attack you. They can rally people up against you with no proof or evidence at all and call you all manner of things, from drug dealers, crackheads, gang members, murderers, pedos, chomos, whatever you want to come up with. They'll come up with absolutely anything that they want to on a whim, with no proof, no evidence, with no correspondence, and then they will rally people together and attack you with those types of insinuations. And so I think that the law needs to be prepared to defend you. And if you look up, legal matters with regards to that, there's really not much, if anything, people can do about it. Once it becomes real world, like they're in your actual life somewhere, on your property or at your residence and your face in public or something, then yes, something can be done about it. But, what leads it up to that should be illegal. Like, you should not be allowed to call people things like that without some type of, character defamation protection or something, so that that somebody, it's just like swatting. It's almost the same thing. Why does swatting happen? Well, the most notorious swatting incidents have been from two spoiled, rotten people in an online video game arena world where they're fighting or shooting at someone or something, possibly each other, and then one person loses. Well, for their ego, that is absolutely not possible. So what do? They call the police and they make up a story. They say, oh yeah, this guy right here, they know his name and his address. He has kids hiding in his basement and stuff. He has weapons of mass destruction. He's selling children on the black market, whatever. They come up with whatever. Then the police go to that residence and it gets people killed. And they're sitting there laughing about causing that happening. All they had to do was call the police and lie. And, the penalties for things like that. So yeah, it's insane. I mean, it is insane. They don't even have the moral fabric, the moral fortitude to know that just lying about something like that is wrong. And they make up stuff, and then they've decided they're going to imply what they've made up and rally enough people that they can against somebody, and then they're going to try to cause as much damage as possible. And sometimes, of course, it's because the other person was better at a video game than you for 10 seconds. Really. So yeah, we live in that twisted It's more barbaric. It is actually more barbaric, with a negative connotation to the word. Barbarians actually were, in some cases, good people. They were social, regulated, intelligent, inventive, but, you know, they are barbaric more with this kind of situation than the way people used to communicate. So yeah, it's sad. It is. I feel sorry for my kids, and they're part of it. My kids are, you know, my daughter's 10. She has a phone. She's on there talking to people, chatting with people and stuff. My son doesn't have one, but he gets online and watches YouTube and he plays video games a lot. I'd say video games are probably one of the biggest things that are part of his life. And we're talking about a 9-year-old. You know, when I was 9, I was on a bike, I was swimming in a river, I was at a pool, I was bowling, I was roller skating, I was skateboarding, I was climbing little hills and stuff. I was out in the woods. You know, if someone needed me to come to the house, they better be able to yell loud enough for me to be in earshot, because I'm alone in the woods somewhere with no supervision, trying to catch a garter snake or trying to rally up some crawfish or something. You know, we had physical, interactive experiences in the real natural surroundings of our world. And that's all been replaced now. Now it's like, hey, do you want to go outside? Oh no, I'm in the middle of playing this, you know, super violent video game or something, or I'm talking to people and who knows what they're saying or what they're doing or what they're showing to each other or what's going on. It's I feel like a get off my lawn kind of guy right now, honestly, but I hate it. I hate what the world has become because of the way social media works. I think that at the very minimum, moderating needs to be precise, and it needs to be that there are consequences for a lack of moderating. And I think that on the other end, in the more extreme or focused stance, character defamations online that could lead to people's lives being disrupted or effectively ruined should be illegal, and should be, character defamation is a real thing. You know, you go online and destroy somebody's character so that it's impossible for them to communicate with others, you have ruined their lives and created a negative impact on their existence. And there should be some type of way to do something about that. You know, in the ancient world, it was very simple. You were destroyed. You know, it's just how it is. You didn't go running your mouth out in the open in front of people without consequences. At the minimum, you'd get the living crap knocked out of you. At the maximum, suppose you're pointing the finger at the very wrongest person, they'll have your guts. They'll have you for breakfast. Today, there are no consequences at all for people doing things that destroy other people's lives. Okay, now I've gotten this. This is wonderful, because exactly what I needed to happen is what happened. Now the neck has only the faintest little hair of relief, but all of the buzzing and the interrupting kind of parts of frets here, that's all taken care of. Now all I really need to do is adjust the saddles to get the action slightly lower. And then this guitar will be perfect, at least for a while. So anyway, thanks for putting up with me if you did. I assume most people are going to turn this video off within the first few minutes. And I won't apologize for my beliefs and my opinions, or the things that I know that are facts. I apologize if what I say was profane, but this is not a video for little kids, and I mean what I say. And you know, if anybody takes anything from this, be respectful and considerate of other people, because you don't know them. Well, I took the neck off again. I adjusted the truss rod a couple times. I redid every single fret again. And I noticed it's actually, I was wrong, it's a one-way truss rod, I'm pretty sure. And
So yeah, it took a lot to get it where it was supposed to be. Now the action is essentially perfect. Any kind of little leftover flat spots, marks, or anything, all totally gone from the frets. And sounded pretty good. Even if the pedal kind of sucks, and that's through the honey tone, just a little thing. And so, you know, normal effects. And this is, let me see, this is just the guitar. So yeah, there was, the reason I did all that over again is there was a little bit of buzzing, but then I noticed when I found out that my cheap Chinese made the slotted fret checking tool there, the neck checking tool, actually matched this scale. I went ahead and checked a few times, and it did seem to have some back bow. And so I had to go through that whole process. And this is the hardest truss rod I've ever worked on. I mean, out of like, I don't know, 20 some odd guitars I've done all kinds of fret and truss rod adjustments to. You know, no, I haven't done hundreds of guitars. I'm still somewhat new to it, but you have to take this neck off to adjust the truss rod. Then you have to put it back on, you know, if that's all you're doing. In this particular case, I could check it over and over again because I was doing the frets. But you know that there's going to be some relief added when you put it under string tension, and that often has to do with the, you know, the makeup of the neck. Is I guess maybe softer maple or you know, overall weaker kind of neck will add more relief, and it probably, lots of things come into play. It might be the neck pocket, how it's lined up, the wood that it's seated into, the wood the neck's made of, wood the fretboard's made of, how it was glued, how the truss rod is handling the tension. Just a lot of other little things probably come into play, you know, with how much relief you're going to get. But this neck is surprisingly rigid. It's one of the most rigid guitar necks I've ever seen. And so yeah, there was enough of a back bow to where it was causing some issues. And so I went ahead and redid every fret, like I said, and I went ahead and oiled, because I used you know, I used the steel wool. It dried up and scratched off that little bit of layer on the neck, and so I went ahead and re-oiled it, and so yeah, it's had time to sit. I've tuned it a couple of times, and the string action's really, really good now. It's close, and a tiny bit on the fat E. And there's still that little bit of a short here, which I'm going to fix later with hopefully contact cleaner or something. So yeah, we'll take one last look at it. We'll take a little bit of a look at the character. You can see some of the little chipping, and you can kind of see how thin the paint is. Like, you know, some guitars, the paint job is so thick you can just see it's almost like a little wall of enamel, and this is really thin paint. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Everything's cleaned up pretty good. You can see that the crack there's almost, it's obviously not invisible, but it's more uniform now. The pressure of the plate is starting to want to kind of do its thing again here. I've leveled out the pickups through testing. You can see that the saddles are all a much better height. None of them are flat against the bridge. So yeah, there's little or no bits hanging out, maybe a little here, but for the most part it's a much smoother surface. And the neck got the big treatment today, and I'm very pleased with how that turned out. It worked out super good. You can see how nice the neck looks once it's been cleaned and oiled. All the frets are all shiny and new looking. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this instrument. It's heavy. This might be my heaviest guitar. I think it probably is my heaviest guitar. It's extremely heavy, and it's probably like, I don't know, really rich, glued up plywood kind of stuff. It's cheap stuff, but boy, is it a heavy instrument. I'm pretty sure it's my heaviest instrument. It might even be, I don't know, 10 pounds or something like that, maybe more. Whenever I pick up this guitar, I've got all kinds of weights and balances and measures in my brain going, goodness gracious, this thing's beast heavy. But I just love it. I love the guitar. I really do. It's been fun working on it, and hopefully I'll get a whole bunch of play out of it before it needs any more work done to it. The frets really needed it. They needed it, especially near the nut. There was actually the first fret job I did. I didn't see that there was kind of a little tiny bit of a kind of notch in the first fret, and so I took care of that. Now the frets are you know, polished now. I won't say they're like new, but they're extremely polished now. They're really shiny and bright and clean, and there are no you know, little indentations or flat spots or divots or nicks or anything like that in any of them now. So yeah, the fret's been done twice today. The neck's been adjusted a couple of times. It's been tuned and everything. The saddles have been set. The intonation is good now. It was already good, but once I redid the saddles, they got a little tiny bit little relaxed on, I think the B string might have needed some adjustment or something. And but yeah, I'm still kind of a little bit amazed at how aged this guitar is for being 21 years old, or whatever, 23, actually it's 23 years old. This is a 23-year-old instrument, and I have seen instruments from that are older, from like the late 80s, early 90s, or even the mid 80s, that don't look as aged as this guitar. So, you know, they made it, I don't know what, the paint job really, but also the pick guard, the knobs lost all of their letters, the plate on the input here, this lost all of its lettering. I mean, you'd think this thing was from the 60s for how much it's aged, even though it was made in 2001. So yeah, this is a Danelectro Danoblaster Innuendo electric guitar, and finally she's ready to be used. And I don't even know if this will fit in a case because of that longer bottom horn part on it. I don't know if it'll need like a big fat empty case. It'll probably work in a like a backpack style shoulder bag, one of the heavier ones. I wouldn't put like the little cheap thin dust cover guitar bags on it, but maybe a nice big thick padded guitar bag,
You know, so maybe from like, I don't know, Chromacast or someone like that makes the really big chunky ones that are high quality. So anyway, yeah, this is up there with one of my favorites now, and I really love it. And the strings are perfect now. They're not too low, not too high, and the guitar has a feel all its own. So yeah, pick up a Danelectro.